Roshan Packages Limited, the fastest growing business group and leading name in corrugation and flexible packaging in Pakistan.
Hello and Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to No Plastics, another episode. Today we have with us Mr. Horst Roeder, who is the area sales manager for EREMA Engineering. EREMA is the world's #1 in developing and manufacturing plastics recycling machines and system components. Founded in 1983 as a pioneer in the industry, more than 6,500 of their systems are now in operation around the globe. Highly respected for their level of innovation, durability, and operational reliability, in total, they produce more than 14.5 million tons of plastic pellets every year to the very highest demand-specific quality. EREMA's headquarters are in Ansfelden, Austria, and they have a history of long-term success for more than 35 years now. Without further ado, let's have a chat with Mr. Horst Roeder, who's joining us from Austria. Hello and welcome to No Plastics platform.
Mr. Syed, it's a pleasure to meet you, at least on the digital way. It would be nicer personally, but this is at times. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Finally, we are virtually meeting each other. Anyways, thank you for taking time out for us today. First question, we have a list of questions for you. First question would be, since you have decades of experience in, especially in plastics and in particular recycling machines of the world's leading company, which is EREMA. What is the scope of recycling globally and particularly in Pakistan?
Let's say in Pakistan still we have some, or let's start it like this. We have some very good business relations since many, many years with some bigger players in Pakistan, especially in the so-called in-house. So this is a recycling of in-house production waste. Let's say the waste on the production of bags, films, and so on. This is quite a very clean material. On the other hand, in addition, we have got within quite known in Pakistan group, Group. We are now starting to go or to deliver or to supply as well for the PT businesses. So PT is like, behind, is going back to, let's say the target is from bottles to bottles.
Right.
Yeah? So Pakistan has not yet a collection system for the plastic waste. For everybody of us in the world now, let's say it becomes more and more important that we do something from the plastic. It's not, let's say, it's not the fault of plastic, the waste in the oceans, the waste in the landfills. This is our fault. Plastic is a perfect material with very specific properties. But just to throw it away and don't recollect it, let's say we had some issues in the last years. And for this reason, it's a big, let's say, the big worldwide players for beverages, especially like Coca-Cola, Danone, Nestle, and so on, Pepsi and others. They now make their own targets. They want to take this off because it's necessary to do something, and they have their own targets which they want to fulfill, and they have a very hard, let's say, schedule to go ahead using used plastics again in new bottles. Yeah, and this is as well, and let's say this is a kingdom class, because this is in this terms of plastic, you are going to the food grade. You take something which is already used, and you bring it back into a food-grade packaging. And this is a challenge where our machinery and equipment can fulfill the extrusion parts, let's say. Usually this plastic, so if you talk about PT bottles, when they are somehow collected in other initiatives, let's say in Germany they are differently collected in automats, which you have in the supermarkets. In other countries, they are collected because they have a certain value in the meantime.
Right.
Then they are sorted, let's say they are from all colors. It's several plastics involved, mainly PETs. This is the main carrier, which we are now working with PET. But the cups are from HDPE. There are some labels on there, some glue involved, and so on. So the first step after collecting, let's say, used bottles, is usually a kind of sorting. When you're going to the several polymers, so PVC is, for example, something which should be selected out very strictly,
Right.
because they are attacking later on the polymer network from the PET. And later on comes out a so-called pre-washed PET flake in a certain specification. And with this flake and specification and our equipment, and we, let's say, process from flakes matching the specification, IV increased food grade pellets.
Right.
If it's in a morph on a crystallite way, in a second step, let's say, these pellets can be used to make new preforms, which is a prior product to a new bottle.
Right. Another question, Mr. Horst, arises here. How many types of plastic recycling is available?
How many types?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's say we can recycle, let's say in the form that we use it as a polymer again. We can use all polymers. So all plastic which can be melted, can be filtered, and which stay back in their form without burning. Yeah? We have tested in our laboratories, let's say, around 7,000 of polymer and combinations. This is really a lot. Because in, let's say, it's an industrial challenge that the specification of the polymer and combinations is increasing. So some are absorbing sunlight, some are very stiff and very hard, others should be flexible, others have to be food grade and must be flexible, and so on. So there are a lot of combination possibles, around 7,500 we have tested in our laboratories. And I can say that we have made a lot of projects possible, even with combinations, but we have to refuse the others which are not possible to recycle. So their future is going into the landscape or being burned, but there's a better use for the polymer, which is, let's say, more or less left in a original polymer form. So every mixture is a compromise.
Is plastic recycling dangerous for health? As you know, general public has this perception that you know, there are so many myths about plastics and recycling of plastics that it can be highly dangerous for humans. You know, their appetite and all that. Direct food contact is you know, a serious issue. For example, don't put plastic container or something of, you know, made of plastic in a microwave and don't heat that up. It will ruin the food and this and that and all. What is your view on that?
Let's say there are some prejudices and some right things on it. So you have to take care which plastic you use for what application. Yeah? So there's a huge number of plastic, but not every plastic can be used for every application, especially not for food grade.
Right.
So let's say if we talk about PET, for example, this is hygroscopic, so it absorbs moisture, and it can be, let's say, the decontamination is another way than a polymer who closes it itself. So it can only, let's say, decontaminate the surface. You cannot treat every polymer has a different melting point, for example, and has completely different specification. And the most important in regards of the health is to go in the food grade section.
Okay.
Yeah. So where usually it's used for packaging, for liquids, carbonated drinks, whatever. And in these FDA tests, for example, they take for a certain time a very clean distilled water and leave it inside a bottle made of plastic from a recycled material for a longer time, and then they measure as well the contamination, or let's say how the bottle itself gives some chemicals or whatever inside the water, so they measure the water. Yeah, let's say, to come back, and these are very strict. So let's say FDA for food contact of PET is only the basic. Well, companies like Danone, Nestle, Coca-Cola, they have on top of this, they have another requirement. yeah, on top of FDA. They are not happy only with FDA. So some are telling, okay, for our product, it's okay if we decontaminate flakes. And for the other one, they say, no, we need an SSP, a so-called solid state reaction, to decontaminate pellets. Yeah?
As you mentioned, FDA and other regulations and all that, are there any international certifications required to, that are essential to obtain for recycling plastics? Because everybody is, these days up for recycling. They want to do, the recycling and want to use the recycled products.
Let's say it depends on the country, yeah, and let's say, again, we are here in food contact is the highest class, because there's let's say the people are, or the company is afraid to leave some step out, and somebody could be harmed eating out or drinking out of this packaging.
Exactly.
And in order to prevent this, like I told you, there are several FDA, EFSA, whatever, yeah. But on top of this, the industrial requirements are much harder. Yeah. So this is a legal level to produce. On top of the legal level to use plastics or recycled plastic for food packaging, let's say the big brands have additional requirements to fulfill. Okay. This is, in our terms, we are a producer of extruders, but it starts already with the sorting and washing. They make audits on that to take care that there's no harm coming into the final product in a bottle or in a food grade packaging.
EREMA Group specializes in which recycling machines and for what type of plastics?
We offer several, let's say, types of machines. This is number one, let's say, this is a typical in-house waste. No? Pakistani company like Tripak, for example, or they use their waste during production. You have maybe 3 or 5% of defect rolls or of optical defect or specification defects. And this is usually something which they cannot sell or get out of the house, so they can use it still on a very clean ambient, because this material is not used. Right. So if the ambient is clean, the issues are here mainly to keep as far as possible the specification of the virgin material, let's say, coming out in a waste form. So it's already a small, lightly degraded, yeah, but it's not, filtration usually is not the issue. So we have small, let's say, units starting from, let's say, 30 to 50 kilo up to 500 or 800 kilogram per hour, to be at a part on the side of a, let's say, of a blown film line, of a huge blown film line, or a side of a BioPET line, or at side of a BOPP line. These are huge lines producing packaging, yeah, and maybe 3 or 5% are cut it off, plus some defect rolls with high speed. These are huge plants. So our recycling is a small unit in the edge, and sometimes is inline connected. So automatically, when waste is generated, it comes to the machine. The machine recognizes material is coming, goes on, transforms this into pellet form again, and blows it back into the feeding section of the production line. This is one part. We call it in-house. Okay. The second part, let's say, these are the three lines. The second part is post-consumer. Post-consumer is heavy duty. Right. Let's say post-consumer, these are the dirty agriculture films. These are the already in use. So mainly there's a washing coming up front. There are two, within the post-consumer, we have two directions. Right. So one material is completely mixed and dirty. Yeah? Yeah. These have to be washed. The other one, some of customers, they are specialized, collecting from the industry this, let's say, defect rolls, highly printed films, whatever, and then recycling it and selling the pellets back. Wow. But the issue is to go in a certain quality. So the target is always to come as far as possible near to the virgin material specification. Yeah? Perfect. So this is post-consumer, number 2. And number 3, is as well a big field. This is PET. So we're talking mainly about food grade to go directly inline into sheet, into textile, into packaging, let's say, or directly bottle to bottle in this application, or strapping. Strapping, these are the transport bands. So we have combination with cooperation partners where we can supply a complete line, starting with our extrusion, input material, for example, flakes, typical bottle flakes, and the outcome might be strapping, might be a sheet. Yeah, from the sheet, when it cool down, you go by injection molding, make a tray. It should be food grade and so on. So we can offer several options. These are the main streams. Besides this, we have technology to bring the smell out. Yeah.
Okay.
There's odor removing, because you can imagine some of the plastic also washed, they still carry some smell. And even if you go for shampoo bottles, for example, from HDPE,
Exactly.
when they have a vanilla smell and you want to turn it back and use it as for lavendel or whatever, then there's still some smell of vanilla you can reduce. This is a nice example. Yeah. But we have a system to bring the smell out with the time and under heat, and to use it as well in food grade applications. And we offer as well compounding solutions. So the polymer is usually, depending on the oil price, because usually you need 2 parts of crude oil to produce one polymer.
Right.
Is in the compounding lines, you put, let's say, a lower part of polymer and mix it, for example, with calcium carbonate, yeah, which is much cheaper. Or we have solutions, let's say, to go into wood compound. So a compound of polymers with wood, yeah, for example, for outside furniture or floors.
Those composite deckings and furniture.
It's a composition mixer, if you want, like this. Yeah? So we start with a recycling extruder, then we filtrate the maybe material will still have some contamination, then go with the melt and a melt pump in a twin screw extrusion unit, which is adapted to huge dosing units, which have a degassing part, and then dosing units and let's say wood is coming inside, or fiberglass or whatever. So compositions are possible. This is called EREMA from our, this is an interesting project as well.
Can we use recycle? Can we recycle PVC, nylon, and laminated, such as a PET, as you mentioned, PET and PE?
All of them is possible to recycle, but to say it very clearly, PVC recycling from the chemical point of view, it depends on the PVC type. It's a weak or a hard PVC, and some of them, when it steams out, there's some acids in the air which can harm people, to say it very clearly. The steam from PVC is not very healthy. Yeah? The others are without problem, no problem. With nylons, with polyethylenes, we have no problem with it. But in PVC, in some cases, we have to take care.
Another thing, what is this concept of circular economy, and are there any eatable and dissolvable plastics? As we have conducted other interviews and people have mentioned this as well. So eatable and dissolvable plastics are also available in the market. Are they expensive at the moment?
Let's say with the eatable and dissolvable plastic, there are a lot of things going on. We have as well as biodegradable. Let's say now we have here in the supermarkets biodegradable, but the problem is later on, it depends on which this biodegradable is based on. It's very difficult. Later on, the sorting is very difficult. And if I go personally to the supermarket, in former times, I did not like plastic. Yes, I like paper. Yeah. Later on, since now almost 20 years, I'm working in the industry, I completely understand this is the strengths, and you can put more inside the plastic bags. And now in our supermarkets, they said, okay, we want to have some semi-solution, and they make biodegradable bags.
Right.
What happens to me as a consumer is that the strengths, yeah, I can only put a few things inside, Otherwise, I will have the same effect taking my things from the supermarket home. And if you're living upstairs and your bottles go down the stairs because you're biodegradable, then you're not very happy.
Exactly.
And so let's say the specifications, the strength, the density, and is not yet, by far not there where the usual, let's say, LDPE bags or what are. They are more strengthened, but they should be used. If you throw them in the landscape, if you put in the forest, this is not very fine. The key thing is how to collect it and where to put it when at the end of the use.
As you know, it is an online era. We heard that EREMA Group would be starting some virtual shows and webinars to create awareness about recycling, especially. How can Pakistani companies tend and get, benefited from these events? And are they free to attend?
Yes, of course, they are very welcome, and we are working on this because our marketing department is quite smart now. We made, for example, let's say we are doing the best out of the pandemic situation. So what we did, we make online tests, for example, for customers. So they log in, they see the whole machine, and so on. So they don't need to travel. And we are now working on a virtual digital fair. This is already, let's say, on the way. So the customers, of course, we want to know who are the customers. We don't want to give too deep technical information which might be misused. So there will be a kind of registration. We are working on this. In very near future, we will have a digital fair. So you will go inside in a 3D modus. You go to, let's say, it's like a virtual room, 3D. You go inside, some guys are standing there. You can talk to them.
Using today's technology.
Exactly. This is already done. It looks very, very, very funny and very nice.
Exactly.
So there will be invitation. If there's no invitation, please contact our agency in Pakistan, and you are invited. We have to cross-check who you are, of course, but feel welcome to join us. It's a pleasure. And this is on the way. Let's say within the next 2 or 3 months, we will have such a digital fair as a first try. And everybody is invited. Who's interested.
Mr. Horst, last but not the least, your comments and views on this effort that we are doing to create awareness through No Plastics platform. People are benefiting from us. They are listening to our interviews of industry leaders and industry pros. We want to know your comments and views on this.
Yes, thank you. It's a pleasure for me. Also, let's say at the moment we have a lot of, we are in a very special moment. It's the same, you see the figures of the pandemic, and let's say a lot of projects, not only for us. It's a little bit a pity because recycling was one of the main topics, or let's say the main topics of the biggest plastic show in the world, on the K show in Düsseldorf and among others.
Right.
At the moment, the situation is like this. There's, of course, the priorities are actually, let's say, focused on this, what will happen to the economy, what will happen to the pandemic, but for sure, as well, for hygienical reasons, the recycling or the packaging will grow. And to reuse recycled material in a high quality in this packaging, it will grow. So it will be back, and it will come to the situation where the big brands really request to use more recycled plastic in the same spec or similar specification in the final products, in the car seats, in the bottles, in the fiber, in the shoes, because it fibers, PT, for example, Asics or Nike or whatever, they are coming in this direction, and we are already talking about food grade fiber recycling because they have a direct contact to the skin. Yes. So this matter will come, and it will be back again, and hopefully quite soon.
Thank you very much for your valuable input and your time, Mr. Horst Roeder.
You're very welcome, Mr. Syed. It's a pleasure to be invited. If you have any question, please contact me or contact our agent in we have a very, let's say, serious and very good known agent in Karachi. And you're very welcome to contact and to go ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again. Viewers, we thank you as well for watching our interviews and programs on our YouTube channel. We need your valuable feedback, how to improve our programs further, and do give us your feedback on our YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter platforms. It's time for me to sign off. Take very good care of yourselves. Allah Nageban.